All right, so welcome to NOHU Live, and I think this is our 9th episode.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hey guys.
So NOHU Live is all about celebrating community leaders and change makers and people who are making a difference in the NOHU community. And so I've been following Adriana. I want to call her by her other nickname, but her name is Adriana.
Wait, what's her other nickname?
Chini. Isn't that the coolest name?
Okay.
Don't you want to call her by her nickname? Anyway. She looks more like a Chini because she's like such an awesome Cuban lady. So I follow her on Instagram. Her Instagram is high5to365, right?
Yes.
High5, the number 5, and then TO365. And she does a lot of things for children. And so actually, I'm gonna let her talk about what she does. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you're currently working on.
Okay, so I've been teaching for 12 years now. I'm an educator in West New York. I started teaching little ones, so I started teaching first graders, which was tons of fun. And then after that, I was transferred to fourth because we had this whole era of park is starting, testing is starting. Well, it's always been around, but it was a huge deal at that point. So they wanted someone in fourth, so I transferred up to fourth. Did that for a couple of years at 6. And then transferred to number 3, which is where I was recently, and now I'm transferred to number 4.
Number 4. By the way, for people who don't know, those are West New York public schools.
Yes.
We just know them by numbers, so because I also went to number 3 school and I went to number 4.
Yay!
We're all a couple of West New York kids here.
I did it. I went to St. John's.
Yeah,
I lived here. I went to St. John's, which no longer exists. But yeah. Why do they call it by number, by the way?
I'm not
That's a
sure.
great question.
Isn't number 6 school Harold Bain?
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of them have names, but
Yes.
for the most part they go by numbers.
That's the only one that had a name.
I think so.
Yeah. But anyway, in November, I was appointed to the West New York Library Board, which has been awesome because I've been able to, learn about what it's like to sit on a board, which has been a different experience for me because I've just been teaching all these years.
Right.
And so, ironically, I worked there when I was a teenager. So it's like full
That's
circle,
elaborate.
right? So
That's
I'm
so
back
cool.
there. Yeah. So I'm back there, and when I sat down and I really got to delve in and see what programs were there really weren't a lot. And I said, you know what, this has to change. So in a matter of months, I kind of drafted up this program, and it was Children's Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked 3 teachers to come on and volunteer, and they were like, yeah, absolutely.
The first 3 people you asked said yes?
Yes.
Wow.
It was just like meant to be. And
That's what I love about this, right? Like this is a very giving community.
I feel like when you're doing the right thing, life transpires.
Yes, it really just worked out. And, a couple people were added on to this after that because they were just like, what are you guys doing? And we want to help, and just jumped in.
We went in.
And it was just all voluntary work, and it was amazing how the community just came together, and it just felt right. And I said, you know what, it can't end here. It really just started as a 6-week pilot, and I was like, this can't end here.
Yeah.
We have to take it to the next level. So
What are the age?
So what we're doing now, which is what I'm going to get into now, is really 5 and under. Because I feel like in this community, if you have a 2-year-old, you have a 5-year-old too. Sorry.
I should make the call.
In this neighborhood, that's funny.
Yeah. So, I just felt
That's
like,
young.
yeah, and I learned at Children's Hour, I said, we're going to do 2s and 3s. And what ended up happening was moms would come with their 2-year-old, and then there would be another one. Like, can I bring him too? Or can I bring him too? And I would say, absolutely. So, what started as maybe 10 kids that signed up ended up being almost 40 kids.
Wow.
And it was amazing how every time 5 more kids would come, someone would just show up as a volunteer. It just happened organically.
That's
Everything
so
worked
awesome.
out
The
well.
universe was really
Aligned for this program. And I said, you know what, this feels right. I just left there feeling so energized. Everybody was just so happy. And I said, you know what, we have to keep this going. And so over the summer, we don't really have board meetings at the library, so I really couldn't push for another 6 weeks over the summer. So I said, I have to do this somewhere else. So I reached out to the community, and 3D Cafe is giving me their space.
Wow.
And we're having our first private event on the 14th. So we're really
July
excited.
14th?
July 14th.
July 14th.
Which is next Saturday, July 14th.
Where give
3D
the address?
Cafe.
What's the
So 3D Cafe in West New York. I actually don't even know the address.
I don't either. I haven't been to that
3D
one
Cafe
yet.
is on 67th Street and Park Avenue. So it's like
It's
right
on
off the block.
67th Street and
We're
Park
Our
having-
Avenue.
founders,
Close.
go support a very positive
Yes.
community.
Yes.
Yes.
We're sharing it on all of our media channels, including our app, which we would love if you guys sign up for. So we want to support community leaders like Adriana and the mission that she's doing and make sure that she gets the support that she needs to be successful in her program.
Yeah, so ideally, I would like if it was a free program for the families. If I could get sponsorship, if I can get community businesses to say, we will sponsor 3 kids for you. The tickets are $25 per child. Each child will leave with a book and a craft. And they're going to be doing gross motor. They're going to be doing sensory learning because at that age, like, it's so huge,
Yeah.
especially for the really young ones.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, like we're so excited, and ideally, again, we don't want anyone in the community to have to pay. We want, community leaders to step up and say, this is what our children need. We want our families to stay here. This is what our children deserve. We want to do it for free. So I'm kind of waiting for that karma to come back.
Yeah.
All these teachers gave their time for free, and we're just waiting for that karma to come back for our kids because they deserve it.
Yeah.
And families shouldn't have to pay for these services.
No.
But we're giving out a lot. We would like the community to step up and say we're willing to volunteer and pay for these students. So really, the class is open for 20 students right now.
From what time to what time?
It's going to be from 10 to 11. So the program for right now is only an hour. As we grow, that's something that we're looking to adjust. We're looking to start more programs for older students. We're looking to start a book club, maybe a poetry club, all things that we want to do. I definitely want to do a writer's workshop moving forward.
I love this.
With
I
so
really
older
love
children?
this.
older children,
You're
right?
getting the
To
upper
open
grade
it up
and-
for an older
Do you need more volunteers for Saturday's event?
For Saturday's event, at the moment we don't because we really only have 20 kids. But I have 2 wonderful people that I'm working with. They are amazing, and they volunteered so much of their time. So I really do want to give them a shout out.
Yeah.
But you know what you need volunteers
It's
for? You need
happening.
volunteers to market your program, to
Well,
share
that I need.
and
That
tell
I need.
everybody you know. So like if you guys are out there,
Yeah.
please check our stories. We posted her event in our stories, and so you can take a screenshot and share it in your social media channel. Share it with all the moms out there. Go to your PTO meetings and let everybody know what Adriana is doing because we really need programs like this. Everything that you've described, doing workshops, doing crafts, like these are things that kids need to be doing from an early age. Like they need to be fomented to like love these things so that they don't start playing video games or be stuck on their phones and doing other things that are not necessarily productive to their learning and to their brain development.
And I love this idea because a lot of times I think people or companies are looking for a way to give back, but they don't really see it. And this is like a program that you directly see the impact right away.
Yes.
And
I would say start writing to all the companies around here because a lot of times there are companies that are looking for write-offs and for the contributions to make and they don't know where to give. And a lot of times they're just giving to like large organizations because they don't know that these small organizations exist. So I would just start writing.
I was just saying I worked for the Boys and Girls Club at Passaic and I ran their volunteer program and something that they did that was really effective was to work with corporations because they actually pay their employees a volunteer day. So they had like a barter system where they would purchase the books, basically sponsor a child and send a volunteer, and it worked that way. I think.
How great is that? I love the idea of sponsoring a child.
Yes.
Because all you need to go around
That's
to all the
really what I
businesses and do
want.
like
Right.
20 businesses, maybe even 10 businesses. They each sponsor 2 children, $50. That's
They
not
I
even
think
that
it's
much
called,
money.
It's called like corporate responsibility or something where they have to do it. They have the money. You just have to go.
And I loved it because that's a real way of connecting 2 different silos. I think that a lot of times people have this perception of kids that grow up in a low income, community. And once they sit and, I saw it before my eyes, once they sat and like read with this child, they realized how amazing and bright and all these stereotypes that they had completely disappear. And then they go back to their environments and share that. And it's just positive all the way.
And I think one of the things that families noticed was it's rare for you to really be in a learning classroom environment with your child, right? You're dropping your child off at school and you're kind of leaving and you're relying on your son's educator to tell you this is who your child is in the academic world. And I kind of feel like one of the most magical things that would happen at children's hours, parents would come in and they would really get a bird's eye view of who their child was in that setting.
Yeah.
Which is rare.
Because they don't get to, right? They don't get to go to class and watch their child in a learning setting. That's very interesting.
It's one day that you get to do that in a year.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of feel like at that age, like you're a mom.
Yeah.
It's not, your child is not the same in school as they are at home in that one. So I kind of felt like it was great. Like parents would come up to me and say, well, you know, is this how this is supposed to be? Or, wow, I never realized that she this. Or, wow, did you notice that this is her talent? And I would say, yeah, isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Like to watch the interaction between their child and others. Who are they in a community?
So not only, like, you know, is it an amazing program, but it provides a caregiver an opportunity to become part of the process of their child's education.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say also, like with what you're saying, like often students, you know, or the parents don't see their students in action in the classroom, but it's also the same way that the student is getting a specific curriculum or nurturing environment in the school, and then they're getting a whole other situation at home. So I think it serves as a really good way to maybe reinforce what you do in the classroom.
Yes.
Maybe there are some parents that don't know how to, you know, help their student with the math homework or with the spelling homework. They're unsure of the instructions or how you know, run your class. So this could be like a really direct way to show that. Like, oh, okay, now I know what to do when, you know, I'm helping my son or daughter with their homework.
Yeah, really, it was meant to be a bridge. It was meant to be, I was telling Roger earlier, it was meant to be a bridge, you know, those years prior to them going to pre-K.
Right. Which are so important.
What is
the
it?
most developmental years, right?
Yes, what is expected? What is expected? Something as simple as sitting crisscross applesauce to listen to a story.
That's actually
really, really simple. But you know what? If your child isn't hitting that benchmark, isn't that something you would want to know prior to?
Right.
Like you're not going to want to wait an extra year to find out that maybe they may need a little extra in order to learn how to do that, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But you know,
You're implementing the routine, which is a hard process that a teacher has to incorporate when a child goes into school
Also,
already. So they're going to be ahead of the game when they enter school,
Yes.
because they already don't have to be taught like.
Also, teachers have magic management tricks. What are some that you want to eyes on you?
oh
Or,
no, I do. What's the one I do?
It's a great question.
I do clap once, clap twice, and then, you know, they already know. But it's funny how you don't turn your teacher anything off. It's summertime and it's not off. I'm home with my niece and my son. And yesterday, you know, they did not want to share because children don't like to share.
Right.
You know. So there was one toy, they had one toy they did not want to share. And I said, eyes on me, count to 5. And they were like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was like, into the toy.
It's great. It's amazing.
You don't turn it off. You don't turn
I've
it
had
off.
moms sit in my chess classes because they're amazed that I have 25 kids listening. I'm like, jump, how high? So they're there and they're kind of like, wow, like what do you do? I guess maybe the incentive part, or I don't know, maybe the punishment and the management piece. And also because we're Latinos and culturally I feel like maybe
I think it's
the
also because
chancleta
of
is
women, because
maybe
I'm
we're
always
women.
fascinated at how women just instinctually know how to deal with children and how to get them to respond.
Right.
Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I don't know that many male educators, and I think that's part of my bias. But like, I do think that women understand.
No. Let's say. Wait. But he's a father to Nina, and you're the alpha.
That is a dog.
Yeah, but you're the alpha.
First of all,
Well, no, just to my dog.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but just to back it up, the fact that you refer to it as deal with children, like right there, that word itself.
I have children at home right now because my partner has his nephews and his niece, and 2 of them are on the spectrum. So one of them has Asperger's and the other one has really severe autism. So say dealing with, because it's such patience that you have to have with children, and they're just like little beings, and they're just undeveloped. Like their brain isn't there yet. And me as an individual, maybe I don't know if it's me just because I'm a man or because I'm Roger, but I have very little patience for people who don't get me or who are not on my pace. So when it comes to little children, I have even less patience.
I'm the same
so I give so much credit to people who do have the patience to teach little minds like that, because it takes a lot.
Especially
It takes
first
a lot of
grade. Like,
patience.
do you do your high pitch? Are you like high pitch mommy time?
You know what? I think I have various different voices.
Right.
This is
It
what my
works.
children
It's
tell
a
me.
thing.
Like, Ms. Rodriguez, so right now you're feeling upset.
Is that really what they say?
They're so smart.
My
It's
voice,
amazing.
I seriously think like there's a box in my body and it changes depending on my
You're
mood.
just a natural teacher. That's like what you do.
you
That's
know,
how you do it.
it's the box in my body. But you know, we're getting back to what you were saying. There's something that I'd like to apply when referring to different children and different learning styles. And I actually came up with this a couple of years ago because a friend of mine was diagnosed with cancer, and she went to a holistic doctor. And when she asked me to go with her, and we went to the doctor, and she was diagnosed, the doctor didn't say, you have cancer. The doctor said, you have a health opportunity.
Oh.
Wow.
And I was like, yes, this is amazing. That's so
Changing the narrative, right?
Changing the narrative. So I
Such
said,
a
you know
difference.
what? I need to borrow that. So I say it's an academic opportunity. Whenever I meet a child that I feel has this opportunity,
And I
so
think that
powerful.
That's the most amazing.
it's an
thing
academic
ever, actually.
opportunity, because now it gives me, it's an opportunity for everybody, right? Because in your case, you're saying, I don't have the patience. So now this is an opportunity for you to learn how to have the patience.
It's a patience opportunity.
It's a learning
Honestly, it
opportunity.
is.
It's
It
an
is.
academic
Right.
opportunity,
It's a
because
learning
now
opportunity.
it's almost as though you're putting yourself in this position where you have to learn not how to deal, but you have to learn about
Change
how
your
this person learns.
Yeah.
You have to learn a new narrative so that
Yeah.
you can say, okay, this is another person that's in my community, and now this is going to help me grow as a person. So that's how I see it. And you know, every time that this student or this person that the school would have to deal with would come into the building, they would say, "Oh, Miss Rodriguez, this person is for you." And it was like, I knew this person was someone who everybody had labeled already. And I was
Wait,
like,
Chidi, can I get a high five?
you
I'm
and
so
I are gonna be
inspired
pals,
right now.
man, because I get it. I get it. You
Yes.
already know. They walked you down the hall to my room, and you already know that you to everybody else is that kid.
And I think you hit the chord at the beginning. Like, it's really comes down to that child just learns differently, and that teacher just doesn't want to acclimate that.
Right, and
There's
saying it
different
the
ways
way
of
that
learning.
you said it is holding teachers accountable, because I cannot tell you how often it's alright if you're not a teacher, fine, but if you're in a classroom environment with children and you give up because that child doesn't learn the way that you're used to, seeing amongst other children, or it doesn't go with your teaching methods, and you just give up, you're not being a good teacher.
No.
You
And
know
I
what I
actually
mean?
have
Like,
a
it just
question.
doesn't work.
So let's bring it back to the community for a second. Do you
Yes.
feel like this community is equipped to deal with children like that, children with special needs?
I think
I know that you're from West New York, but I know that the family that I was just telling you about staying with me, they've had a lot of trouble getting the accommodations
Support.
that they need, support
Resources.
and resources to support these children. They
I
just
think-
don't want to do it in North Bergen.
I think a lot of times it's a combination of educating the community and using the resources that we have to merge those two worlds.
Right, but it's also educating the administration, because I feel that a lot of times, and I wasn't there, this is just from the stories that the mom would give me, the teacher was like, no, he's fine, he's totally normal, he has Asperger's, he's not normal, he's definitely on spectrum. He's smart, he learns, he has 100, on all, he has A's in everything that he does, but he has a very, you can come
You
over.
should see the
I'm
young
a
one,
barbecue
Nicholas.
lady.
I'm like so. I have such a special connection with the young one.
Yeah.
I
He's
think
very
he's-
sweet.
Yeah, the young one is just overstimulated. I think because of the difficulties that a lot of kids on the spectrum have, they're overstimulated by
Right.
the different sounds that they're hearing. So it's so hard to
Right.
know what it is.
But
that
here's the
they're
thing, the
feeling.
mom struggled so much to get him the resource accommodation that he needed. He needed a psychiatrist, dedicated psychiatrist, or at least a therapist at the school. And
Psychologist or psychiatrist?
I think psychologist.
Psychologist, yeah.
Yeah, in the school, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't give it. How is the school not equipped to deal with children who have autism. For me, I feel like that's something that's not just like in certain communities. This is happening everywhere.
It's
So they should always have those resources.
It's actually an epidemic.
Maybe
for
compare it
sure.
to poverty.
I think it is an epidemic.
How do we deal with the?
It's an
poverty?
epidemic, and it's not particular to urban communities. It's particular to private schools. It's particular
So it's
to
everywhere. Nobody's equipped.
I think
no.
I think
honestly,
I would agree with you. I think there's a disconnection to the emotional factor that
Yes.
plays into that,
Yes.
and people just don't want to deal with the emotional factor. You can't ignore. You can't help a child if you're only fixated on whether or not they can take a standardized test, or you can't help that child. And there is so many environmental, social dynamics that go into play that completely don't get the attention.
There's this whole humanistic factor
That's
has
missing.
completely been removed from the
Yes.
educational system. I was having this conversation with a colleague of mine the other day because they said, we have to make sure that we are monitoring whether or not our students are learning. And I said, monitor it how? I said, because the way we're monitoring it right now is not working.
Well, thank God for you.
We have
There's a reason.
I don't know that I am the end all be all. Certainly not. There's a lot I have to learn. However, I think
But you're
that
critically thinking, and you're
every day in my classroom we critically think, and I think, like I said, we are not teaching mindfulness in our classrooms. We are not teaching growth mindset in our classrooms.
Powerful.
And this. If you follow me, I like to read, and it takes 10 minutes, folks. 10 minutes to read a picture book to your kids and say, well, what do you think the theme of this book was?
Such an important question. A lot of times you don't get that. You have this dictatorial setting in a classroom where the teacher's in the front of the
Education is power. I think like every other system in our country or in our society, I think it's just another way to keep us powerless, especially with kids. And
I understand it, but I think that
or
we
empower
have,
us.
yes.
Because what you're doing is empowering
Right.
the community to be a part of the education process.
Right.
And
Yeah. But I think it takes awareness. So like if the community is aware of the problem, and I think that's what you were getting at, if the community is aware of the problem, then we can start to address the problem and create solutions, and we can start to create programs that address these problems. We can't, just because we've been doing it like this for so many years, or even someone from the top set it up this way, doesn't mean that we don't have the power to change
that's true. But do you think, I'll ask you this, do you think it takes a community to notice that, to realize that there's a problem, or do you think it takes a community to relate to the problem?
I think it takes one
Like
person like her to care.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all these other people see, oh wow, this is actually something
Right.
that's totally doable.
Right.
For them to be like, oh, okay, I want to be a part of this. This feels good. This is
Right.
possible. It just takes one person. My youngest son is actually in the Weehawken school system, and I went to a meeting at the end of the school year and met his second grade teachers, and he's dealing with a lot of emotional factors that play into his ability to focus. Like that they don't know, they're not equipped to know how to implement. I mean, I thankfully am educated enough to have opened a 504, and I didn't. A lot of people don't know this. It's more important. It's much more important for the parent to initiate that as opposed to the school, because then it's going to be managed in a much more humanistic way. No one's going to take care of your child like you.
Yes.
So I initiated this, and it was the best thing I ever did. It was very hard to do because his father was against it, but now he has a team of people that actually are really helping him. But in the meeting, preparing him for second grade, the 2 second grade teachers were there, which was really cool. There's 2 teachers in that classroom. And I started out with saying that, healing is a mind, body, and soul thing. We're not going to, be able to have him focus on English if emotionally he's stressed out and dealing with a lot of pressure.
Right.
And after the meeting was over, one of the second grade teachers came up to me and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you said that. She's like, I do
think that's a common sense
mindfulness, meditation, and yoga in my class. And I was like, wow, that is so important. I was like, every teacher should implement this in their class. I remember going through the process of the 504, and they asked the parent, like, what accommodations you wanted. And the ones that I came up with, I literally just Googled, like, what are certain things that are so basic. When you think of a child that young, they need to move their body. It's not natural to expect a child to sit down for 8 hours like this. It's crazy that this is the expectation.
With behavioral issues, just because they're feeling like children, they need to move
because
their
they
energy,
need to stand up. Because they need to
heading in a
stretch.
positive direction. I mean, that's definitely.
Well, when we have
progressive
innovative
education.
educators like Adriana, that's exactly,
And
and like
implementing
yourself.
mindfulness, you just said, is huge.
Which, by the way, Joanna's an educator as well.
Yes.
I don't think we got to that,
It's
but
okay.
Joanna's a chess teacher.
No, we've mentioned it, guys. It's okay.
Which is
We all work
amazing.
together.
I
And
just
Milo
saw
Song is an
Milo
amazing chess
chess,
player.
and it's unbelievable. The self control and like I don't even know what would it be called. Like when you're
Focus, guys.
focused.
So
and
something-
goals, because you're like thinking of your
Right.
next.
Something that you said, Chini. That really reminded me of something with chess was, so I hold chess tryouts at one of my big competitive schools in Queens. Yes, and every year I try out 500 students. I don't know their names, I don't know their grades, and I do the same thing. Long story short, I have to review the list of kids that I pick with the principal, and she always looks at me with this face like, you picked the worst kids of the school, and like it's not a coincidence. Obviously there has to be changes in the
let me ask
curriculum and
you.
education.
I know you for a long time, so I know that you like a challenge.
Yes.
I'm assuming that you're also one of those people who love a challenge. Do you feel that maybe that's an epidemic in the
Good
educator
question.
community? They just don't want to be challenged.
Good question.
They want an easy paycheck. They just want to go home and do what they need to do on a basic level with children.
I don't think.
Or do you feel like there's a lot of empathy in the community and maybe they just don't understand how to deal with challenges?
I think that's an epidemic in the world. Everybody just wants this beautiful, pretty picture.
Yeah.
I mean,
A standardized
not only that, I also feel that teachers go to college for X amount of time. Many of them don't pursue a higher degree or continued education.
Yeah.
And I know that in schools they provide professional development, but there's something to be said about going back to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it forces you to have to look at the laws that are implemented. You have to write papers on this. You have to read articles. You have to read published writers who investigate what's going on in the educational community. So I feel like as a teacher, as an educator, you have to find a fine balance to be successful where you are in there and you're seeing what's going on, but also you have to be able to make time to step away and read those scholarly articles and see what's working, what's changing in education, not only where you work, because I work in a microcosm, right? I work in this bubble where these are my students, these are the only people I service, but educators need to step back and educate themselves, right?
Well, do they educate each other? Do you guys ever come together in like a
professional
committee?
development?
So I definitely do, and I don't only do it in my district.
Oh, okay, good.
So I take time to step out and read those articles and educate myself, because if that's the case, then I'd be teaching the same way that I was trained in 2006
That's
when I graduated.
Right.
It's 2018. Education changes monthly.
Yeah.
There's something
always
new.
something
There's
new.
always something new. So to me, it's a disservice to my students if I am not researching.
You're
right?
not learning still.
Do you think that teachers have the resources that they need to get that additional education? Is it expensive to?
I was just going to say before you go into that's really important. What you're pointing out is that lack of wanting to evolve, and how are you going to teach that when you're not implementing that in your whole life? And teachers should constantly be evolving intellectually so that they can broaden their horizons of their students. But the other factor, which I think you're getting into, I don't know your economic status, but teachers are being treated like third-class citizens.
That's the other half.
They are basically paying for their children's school supplies. They're basically like, they're bleeding them dry.
Not
and pictures you see these, some of these schools, the textbooks that they're working with, it's an injustice, and we're, a person who is not healthy, evolving, intellectually, but not healthy, like eating right, able to have a balance with life, self-care, and is not going to be implementing those things for themselves or for someone else, because just recently our new educational director DeVoe it's unbelievable the things that they're just stripping away from our educational system. It's scary to be a teacher right now.
I feel like
there's so much lack of
even the
security.
mentality between with people, because when I read the comments on things, for example, for even NewJersey.com, and I look at like the comments that people are leaving, people feel that like educators are getting paid too much, that they're paying too many taxes, and that the money's getting misappropriated.
I think it has to do with the business of education, because it's something that
the fact that education is a business.
It is a business, and if you look, and listen, and an
Driven
easier
thing.
way to look at it, instead of think of it as in the grand scheme of things like a business, is to look at something like public schools versus charter schools. Charter school. I worked for a charter school for a very long time. It's how I started teaching chess, and that was the most amazing and heartbreaking experience of my entire life, because they get funding, they pay their teachers a lot of money. People think that teachers don't make money. Go see a teacher at a charter school. They have salary, they get summers paid. No, really, this is how it goes. And their kids are taking yoga, and they go to the MoMA for free, and they have the whole MoMA closed down for them, and they have chess, top of the line, everything.
Yeah, where are these communities?
No, these are communities in Harlem, in the Bronx,
Jersey City.
Yeah,
Jersey City, really?
Yeah, because
I don't know. I don't agree with the charter schools.
But I don't either. But this is the reason why. This is the business of education is simple, and it's simple as this. It's focusing on managing, having a classroom of robots who get straight A's, so that you have people investing. That's the only reason and why they will invest. So that if you go to charter school,
but are they learning, or are they just?
Oh no, they're learning. But people are super emphasized. The teachers are like working on Saturdays. They're burning themselves out, because the teachers will get fired if they don't meet the quota.
Right.
So they run it like a corporation.
Yeah, but this is what's missing. Do you think they have social workers? No. The things that we're concerned about, which is the welfare of the child, how the emotional, they don't care. I was in Washington Heights in Harlem, teaching chess, where my kids would come without showering for weeks.
Wow.
Some of them were living in shelters. They were getting straight A's, they knew how to read, they knew math, but what are they going to do when they go back home and they have nowhere to sleep and they have nowhere to eat? No social workers either on campus.
So, working with my students
in a public school setting,
a lot of times you hear these heartbreaking stories, right? And these kids are coming to school. A lot of them, it's even difficult for them to get up and come to school.
Yeah.
And
there's so much neglect.
I create these bonds with these kids from early on in the year, where they're like, well, we want to come to school. And a lot of them are just getting themselves up, getting themselves ready, and coming to school. And it's heartbreaking. And for a lot of them, we could turn around and say, well, it's the parents' fault. These parents are struggling themselves. Self-care. They don't know anything about self-care.
They have children. They have like newborn babies, and that's why the kids have
the older child takes care of the younger child. And these are good,
can't we all relate to
parents who need resources, and that's really what's heartbreaking. They don't have the resources. They don't even know what the resources are. They wouldn't even know what they look like.
Guys, how about us? Did you go through that as a kid? Because I did. I was home by myself washing dishes while my mom was working, and my dad wasn't home because he was working.
I fortunately lived a great life. My parents are from this community. Yeah. They're educators. They actually just retired, and together they gave 60 years to this community.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my
dad was my twin sister's 8th grade teacher. And then he went on to be the principal of Memorial High School. Yeah. Well, the vice principal.
Yes, he was there for a while, and then he's just been all over town.
Her mom was my cheerleading coach.
You go way back.
Shout out to my parents. I don't want to say that I got raised wrong, but I definitely was independent. I think I had to I learned how to iron my own uniform.
I can speak
second grade.
Coming from an immigrant family, my mom couldn't help me with my homework. She couldn't sit there and do math problems with me because she was never really good at that. I was also independent growing up. But I had some resources. I had a recreation center that I think you guys. I was just talking to the guy from the Parker Cafe. There's no recreation center anymore, right? For kids, there's nothing for them to do.
I can speak to what you were saying. That school for me was an escape. There was a lot of dysfunction in my house, and school was an escape for me. School, I loved being in school. I know what you're talking about.
I think, despite when you take on that oath to become a teacher, the same way you would take on the oath to become a doctor or an attorney, whatever it is, you take on this oath to say,
under every circumstance, under not being funded properly, you'll take on this oath to say, I am responsible for the well-being of these little people, these big people, these humans. It's my job, right? So yes, we are under all of this pressure. Teachers are underpaid. All of these things,
Sometimes
right?
you gotta buy them lunch because they come with no food. What are you gonna do then?
And it's hard because there's plenty of teachers. I know you're out there saying, Adriana, stop. Because I know how much money you pay for your class. Right. Yeah. Like every summer, I shell out who knows how much money.
This is an unspoken thing that teachers do
in your LLC now.
Get that.
I hope you are.
You can. You
Honestly, but it blows my mind that like teachers are not funded, but these superintendents are getting paid six figures, and the people in administration are getting paid six figures.
They're dealing with the
and
money.
They have 2 or 3 government jobs in this community. I know that we don't want to bring it to the government thing, but it really bothers me that the money is so badly administered in Hudson County.
Please do.
And going back to what you were saying about charter schools, I think that this is the imbalance. I think it's like when corporations move in, they kind of like wash out the mom and pop shop. It's the same thing with public education, and this is what's dangerous about what she's doing. She's giving an astronomical amount of money to charter schools that are not held accountable. Did you know that after you give money to a charter school, if they close down the school, all that money that was given to each individual like student, they keep. So it's become like a way of basically stealing money. There's 3 ways of like doing philanthropy work. There's people who do it and they actually want to help, whatever the cause is. There's people who do it for the acclimates and you know how amazing it makes them look. And then there's people who do it to make money off of it, which is for real. And unfortunately, a lot of charter schools, there's charter schools that do it right, but there's a lot of charter schools that that's what it's about.
I agree with you.
And it's completely sucking the public school system. It's dry, and we can talk about this here because we were public school. You went to high tech, and I remember
High tech is public school.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's just
high tech is like a magnet school, but it's a public school.
So it's
just
I went there too.
Yes.
I went to the dances. Woo.
I took a dance course when I was in grammar school that they opened up for like you know the regular school kids to go. Me and Amy would take a bus to the high tech school, and I was like, wow, this school's amazing.
It's a really good school.
How do you get into the school? My parents didn't know the resources to even know how to apply and
that's just it. You know, at the school that I worked at last year, I was the parent liaison. Like I signed up for every community extra job in my building, and everybody like knew me. Oh, so you know, now that I'm leaving, everybody's like, don't leave. No.
Okay.
No. My brother's actually a politician.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gabe.
Yeah.
We're not gonna talk about
Gabe,
that. He's
calm down.
super humble soup. But yeah, I was the parent liaison, right? And I would just go to the meetings and whisper things and say, this is what I think. This is what I think you should do. And you know, my meeting ran for like X amount of time, and then I would stay for like an extra hour, like answering questions, like off the record. So it's not that the community doesn't want to learn. They want to learn. They just need a platform. They need a place where they can ask questions and not feel like, why are you asking that? And I kind of feel like I've noticed that in the teacher community, that's an unspoken truth. I feel like teachers want to learn more, but there's this cattiness and competitiveness where, what do you mean you don't know that?
right.
That's in general.
That's in general. Even on a deeper level, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. There's, I moved to Boston recently, and I work predominantly with white folks, and there is definitely a stark difference in the ability to ask for what you want.
Yes.
In Latino communities, we're conditioned to not ask for anything, to not value our own rights, our own opinions. And there's so much to go into this, but we don't assert, this is what I rightfully deserve, and this is what I rightfully need, and this is what there's just I don't know if it's super humble pie or super educado, you're just taught to be super mannered and asking is not mannered. I don't know where the disconnection is, but it's to circle back to what you're doing. I think that's why it's so important what you're doing, because you're not only just really helping these children in the prime years of their life, but you're empowering their parents to look and be a part of something that they are kind of shut out from. Yeah, like you said, you drop your kid off at school, you're not a part of that process. You get the report card and you're like, all right. But this is like hands-on, the opportunity to be part of the PTA. I did what some people do. I moved out of Hudson County, and I had my kids go to a school in Bergen County because it was a blue ribbon school system in Rutherford.
The same thing.
And I mean, it's unfortunate. I didn't want to do that. I love West New York. My heart is in West New York. I would have loved for them to grow up in West New York, but I went to the educational, system here, and I wanted better for them.
Honestly,
and when I went to those schools, 99% of those parents are on the PTA making sure that the money is getting allocated to the right direction.
They can probably afford to be, because they can afford to be staying
No, and a lot of
West New York, North Carolina, these are working class people.
Right.
Who the hell has time to be on the PTA? It's like you said, it's not that they don't care.
No,
it's
there's
not that they
a
don't want to know.
cycle that
They
is
care.
keeping this. That's why I'm totally
It's
like
economics.
becoming a fan. Promoting your thing, because it does give parents early on an opportunity to be like, oh, I can be part of
But
this.
also hours that work for them, right? Because when do you usually run your programs?
Saturdays.
Right.
Saturdays at 10.
I don't know if you do
You
this
see what I mean? This is
already.
exactly what the
Yeah.
community should
Yeah.
be doing, is
Right.
providing these
It's
after hours.
I don't know if you do this already, but I hate to bring up charges, but I think that we should bridge, we should learn from one another. It's not a competition.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that they taught me to do to have, to build relationships with the parents and the students is to have, kind of like a quota. You would have a list, you would have to call a certain number of parents to let them know how their kids are doing. And so you
Open the communication.
Yeah, so you're involving them. And it would be always positive. So it would have to be 10 positive calls a week.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, I just
Yeah,
want to let you
really
know.
You usually don't hear from the teacher unless
No.
your kid does
It has to
something
be- it
wrong.
has to be
I'm noticing
positive.
that with the children in my house. The
Yeah.
teacher is just not responsive.
Well, that's because they're
even
not
in Puerto
taking
Rico, their
responsibility.
education was better because they came from
And
Puerto
wasn't
Rico.
the
And the
little
teacher was
girl
always calling.
student of the
you know,
month after only being
Well,
a
that's
month
because they're not doing what she
Yeah.
said, academic
That's
opportunities. They're not doing that. They're not seeing it as an academic opportunity. They're seeing it as a way to complain, and they just don't want to deal with it anymore.
And I also feel that in our community, there is a stigma. You brought up before, I got my son on 504. It's an academic opportunity.
Special
It's not a stigma. You had
No.
mentioned that his father was like, no.
No,
doesn't
he
need
fought
that.
it nail and tooth,
Well,
and
you know
it's really
why? Because
He's
we have
labeled.
a stigma. He's
So
now
true.
labeled. Now he has
Disabled.
this thing. He's disabled.
Right.
No, he doesn't learn like everybody else. Nobody learns the same way.
No.
I should have a 504. Everybody should have a 504.
I wish I would have had a 504.
Because
I was super artistic.
to be
I wish
fair-
I would have been nurtured.
I was a kid
Colombia
that
with 2 kids.
would hum when they would take their Adriana, be quiet. Why? Because that's how my
Right.
brain works.
Yeah, guys, but to be fair, in high school, I don't know if you experienced this, the kids that had 504s or whatever, they were in special needs. They were completely isolated. And everybody knew when we were sitting in the cafeteria.
Thankfully, that's not the case anymore.
Right, but I remember when I forgot what we used to call them. We used to call them sped, like sped kids, and it wasn't even learning. It was behavioral. Most
Well,
of the
that's
time.
what my son's. It's not
Right.
learning.
They were
It's
different.
super bright.
They were
It's
definitely
behavioral.
stigmatized.
Yeah,
For sure.
And
The
it's
special
more
ed thing, it was
Right.
like a label. The
It was
short
a
bus thing
label.
was a label.
I remember being in the cafeteria. It was
It's
like
not
a
in his
section
school. It's not in his
special
school.
kids.
Thankfully, there's a woman that sits with him 3/4 of the day, and she just helps give that extra support, and it's made a huge difference. And there's a team of people helping.
But you know what? If your health care issues are private, and there's all these laws that protect your healthcare privacy. Why is special education so publicly said? Why does every student in the school
It
need
shouldn't
to
be.
know that you're special ed?
It shouldn't
Because
be.
it does provide a stigma. Even if you call it special ed, because I feel like by calling it special ed, they're trying to create a euphemism so it doesn't sound so bad.
Right.
No matter how you put it, no matter what euphemism you use,
Right.
it's a stigma.
I mean, yeah.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand is, and this is a lesson that I always like to teach. I posted a short clip about it on my Instagram, and it was based on a book that I read to the kids. I can't remember which one it was. Regardless, the theme of the story or the theme that I was driving was, if we did not have people who learned differently, we wouldn't have the arts. We
Right.
wouldn't have
No doubt.
Mozart. We wouldn't have
Thank you.
Polish.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
wouldn't have all of these
Astronomers,
artists.
inventors.
You have to think outside of the box
Right.
to have
To
these
create.
to create.
To create and evolve and progress.
Nobody
Right.
is the same.
No.
So how am I going to sit here and say we all have to act this way? You know, I had this argument with somebody about gifted and talented. My whole life, gifted and talented. I am a gifted and talented dropout, okay?
So am I!
I was kicked out of gifted and talented. And I'm sorry, but I think I'm pretty talented.
I failed out too.
I think I'm pretty gifted too. So
I always wanted to be gifted and talented. Look at that name.
Yeah,
The gifted and talented children, mind you, you're all
And you know what they
normal.
did? You know what they did with the gifted and talented kids? We would sit there, our teacher would leave us alone in class, we would watch Jerry Springer.
No.
I'm not even joking.
No, you guys would go to plays, okay? And
No.
that was huge. You guys would go to New York plays, and
We
I was
would
like,
go
I
and
want to go
stuff.
to those New York
For
plays. I want to go to the museums. Every child
But
should have
like,
been
the
given those
minute you
gifted
call
and
one kid
talented things.
special and one kid gifted, everybody else feels like, you know what, I don't want to, I'm just not
Yeah,
even
it's
gonna
just
bother.
a different
I'm not
style.
as good as them, and I don't want to be like them, so you just check out, and then that's why we need people like you who see that behavior, and they're like, no, we're not going to let you
We
check
need to
out, we
change
want you to
the
participate.
rules, and we need to change. That's how it is, and you're doing it already.
I just feel like we need more for all, right? We need to know Roger likes X. Okay, Roger, this is where you belong, but hey, you want to explore this? Come, let's explore this together, because maybe you, 5-year-old Roger, would teach me, 34-year-old Adriana, something that I never even knew before.
Right.
So I think we have to stop thinking of this as I am educating you, little one.
Yeah.
No, that's not what should be happening in our educational environment. How many things don't you learn from your son every single day?
Every day,
That
every
you're like,
day.
what? You just blew my mind. I didn't even see that way. It's
All
really
the
that's how it's
time.
been.
All
Every
the time.
day.
All the
And
time.
I
That's
just
true.
think that we really need to reanalyze how we are what an educational environment should look like. What should it feel like? That's the narrative that should be going on.
We need to dispel.
And the idea of discipline.
We need
Because
to-
I feel like there is an idea. That's I think one of those limiting
that's
things.
a huge one. But it comes down to dispelling myths.
Right.
We have a lot of myths about the way a child should act.
You should also
The
have
way
tactics.
Because that's why we
a
have those
teacher
top-down
should
like
But that comes
teacher-student
down-
thing, because a lot of people, a lot of adults feel like they have to discipline children and behaviorally train them to be the way that's acceptable to that person, and that's not right. That's not right.
But in defense for the teachers, you know, there is a lot of emotional, things that this child is coming to their classroom with. And if they aren't equipped to deal with their own emotional, things going on in their life, how are they going to help
But
the child?
you know what, you
Right.
said
But
it
dealing with
before.
emotional things doesn't mean like
She
getting
even
rough
said it
with them.
before. She
No.
takes her time out of her routine to read articles about certain things that have to do with her field and teaching
Yeah.
education.
Exactly.
That's something really important because, for example, I learned when I had professional development, and I wasn't doing it on my own, but I was lucky to be a part of a school who provided that, even for the chess teachers. To learn about, we would have workshops with people who were expert at managing the classroom, and I would be blown away.
Yes.
Something as simple as, I'm sure you've used this as a tactic, when you see kids who are really insecure, don't get enough attention at home, but they act out in the classroom, just give them leadership roles.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
simple.
That's huge.
Make them
Really?
make them the star of the class, and you see them shine.
Do you know that's
Another
funny because
huge-
they definitely did that to me. I was the problem
Yeah.
child, and they were like, you know that you're a leader?
Yeah.
And that, I swear to
That's
God, was
it.
one of the
It
most influential
It
things
does
in my
work.
entire life because it made me think,
It
am
does.
I?
But
I
they
didn't
are.
realize that
But
because
they
I was
are
the most
leaders.
tired kid in the class.
I've literally had kids where I almost felt like I was just at a loss. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Nothing's ever gonna work. And I've gone as far as being like, I need you right now to
Oh
be
my
my leader.
God.
They
And
are
they're like,
leaders,
You
though.
need me.
I worked
I'm
with
getting chills because like I remember
It
that so
works.
well, and it really does work.
I worked with
works.
children for over 10 years in a different setting, facilitating groups on an array of different topics like anti-bullyism. That's another thing. I don't know if this is still here, but there was a peer leadership program.
Yeah, we still have it.
Oh, great. This should be everywhere. It was, basically...
We're watching that show. We've been torturing
Oh, no.
ourselves with watching
Peer
this
leadership
show.
and peer mediation program that I went through, and then I went on to work with youth empowerment strategies that used to do the teaching and all that. Judith Springer and Chris Miller, who's passed, most influential people in my life. But I worked with this one group, the Sankofa group, which was in Harrison, New Jersey, and they were basically deemed the troublemakers. These were the kids that were already having a juvie record for, misdemeanors or whatever, and deemed kind of the problem kid. And they were amazing. These kids were the leaders of the school by far. They critically thought. They would come up with these amazing ideas. But again, going back to this whole not implementing that everybody learns differently. You have two, right?
I have one.
Oh, you have one.
But
I have two
boys
boys.
Too, so,
right.
Yeah.
So I have two boys. They're 10 years apart. I mean, the education system, every system has changed drastically from when I had Savion to when I had Milo. But their learning styles are completely different.
Yeah.
Savion is an honor roll student because he excels in a routine setting. He loves routine, and that's what school is built on. Mm-hmm. It's just doing things in a timely fashion. That's that's why he's excelled. Yeah. Milo is more of an artist. There is time to put a restraint of time on a child like that is doing an injustice, because they're developing such a different way, and they're learning in such a different way, and they're seeing the world in such a different way.
Also, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's what standardized test is all about.
How
much can you get done in this time? And then suddenly, because you get more done in that amount of time, it makes you smarter.
No, guys, and there's a huge controversy with testing in law school. There's a bunch of students who need more time to take the test, and there's a huge controversy because getting into law school is so competitive. It's super hard, and the whole entire thing is based on how fast you can deliver, how fast you can problem solve, how fast you can think critically. And here there are a group of students who are getting extra time because of their need, and so it's an issue.
So what you want to say?
Oh my God! Because I feel as though, think about yourself, right? This system was shoved down your throat for so many years, right? You did whatever you did with your life, and you circled right back around to 5-year-old Roger, who did what he wanted to do. Didn't you become what that kid wanted to be anyway after this was shoved down your throat? Wouldn't this have your life been expedited if you were just allowed to be creative, Roger, be yourself, and that was nurtured and hydrated?
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like that for myself. I mean, luckily, I was always at a chalkboard. Let's learn something new, folks. That was me.
You had parents that were educators,
right?
So
both my parents. My grandmother was an educator. My other grandmother was a nurse. I grew up in an environment where the universe was you're gonna be an educator, whether you like it or not. And luckily, it was what I loved anyway. So it was just kind of this was a perfect scenario for me. I have to say, I lived a charmed life. I had the best childhood ever.
Great parents.
I have the best parents ever.
They are.
So I did live a charmed life, and I kind of feel what's happening to me now is what wasn't fed was the leader in me. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't always assertive or the smartest in class. So I was never viewed as the leader. I was viewed as the one that kind of just I'm here, I'm learning, I get along with everybody, I'm social, I'm kind, this is who I am, this is my role in this classroom. So that was never really fed. So I never really fed it myself. I was just kind of this is my crew, I love my kids, I love my students.
This is my role.
This is my role. And then one day I woke up and I was
who made that rule?
Who made that rule? I said, I'm doing something different here. More people need to know about it.
And it's like you said, it's not like you're blaming your parents for not doing that because they were great parents.
Yes.
It takes a village. It takes a community. Maybe you needed that teacher, that person in your community who said, no, you're a leader. You're going to be a leader because I see quality in you. But maybe for that person to see that quality, they need the awareness to understand what a special child is, what that leadership skill is.
Agreed. But I also think that, this is where that snowball effect has to come in. Yeah. And I could tell you, for me, in high school, it was Corinne Pontecorvo. She was my math teacher, and I was always bad at math for my whole life. Terrible, horrible math. Was not my thing. And I had her for geometry class, and for the life of me, she was trying to teach me this. I can't even tell you what it was because I don't remember, but I will never forget.
That's how I felt about geometry.
She had a classroom full of kids that she was trying to tutor, and I said, Ms. Pontecorvo, I just don't get it. And she had flipped it and tried to teach it to me numerous times. And, you know, at this point, I was internalizing everything because I was the one not getting it. And she said to me, I will never forget, she said to me, I'm not teaching it to you the right way.
Wow.
She set me free. She
Wow.
set me free. I'm talking about trauma of not understanding maths in second grade.
Yeah. And you feel like a panic. That panic that you feel because you don't
Forget
understand
it.
something.
She said, I'm not teaching it right.
That's huge.
And
She's
I
an amazing
said,
teacher.
Wherever she is, Miss Pensacola, she follows me on Facebook. I love you so much because that set me free.
Wow.
And that's
it wasn't you.
It wasn't me.
You weren't broken.
The following day,
And accountability.
Yes.
Like, she was like, I want better. You know?
Yes.
And
I'm
not.
gonna figure it out. How can I change my methods in
Academic opportunity.
Right.
She gave herself an academic opportunity, and she gave me a chance again to reconnect with math in a completely different way. The following test, the following day, she gave me this assignment. The whole class sat down, did the assignment, and I got a B. It might have been the first test that I didn't get like a low C, D on, and I passed. And she was like, "That was a test." She was like, "You have test anxiety. This is what it is." She was like, "You do not like to be put on the spot." And I was like, "I don't."
Are you in my head?
What do you mean?
Wow.
She and I got A's on every math class I took in college. I got an A, and it's because of her.
Like you, shout out to Professor Vides, who now teaches next to with my mom at Bergen College. For me, it was writing. I could not write. I could do math, sleeping, but I could not write. I couldn't put my ideas on paper. I felt like a complete idiot. And this is in my adult life.
Yeah.
So I felt even worse because I'm like, oh, here I'm teaching chess. I must be smart. I must be great, and I can't even write. And I couldn't. I failed and I failed. She was the first professor to fail me. Called me on my bullshit. And my issue was that I had issues with not comprehending. I didn't understand how to follow directions. I just couldn't. She would make it so easy. She would set up the paper and say, answer this question in page 1, answer this question in page 2, answer this question in page 3, and I would either rebel and just want to do it my way, and also I didn't know how to follow the format.
I would have loved.
She not only did she fail me, she pushed me so hard. She's the first professor that said, no, you can do better, and I did. I got first place on my writing thesis.
You see?
Because of her.
Wait, and what do you think about, actually, because this is what my biggest issue was, like, I have horrible memory. I've always had horrible memory ever since I was a little child, and so my struggle in school, I was always excellent at math, excellent at everything else, except things that I had to remember.
Can we talk about that?
And when I got to
It's my pet
college,
peeve.
it killed me.
boy.
It killed me when I got to college because I had a 3.98 GPA until I had a history class with this professor, can't even remember her name, because the whole class was about memorizing as much as you can as a sponge. And I was like, oh my God, you're making me panic. I can't do this. And then after I failed that, because I failed that class in college, I started failing everything else because it was like a snowballing effect where I started to lose confidence and I started to feel like stupid. I was like, oh my God, I've discovered now that I'm in college now, I was in this public school system, my whole life has been a lie, I'm a failure, I can't remember things, I must be dumb. So what advice do you have for parents who have children like myself?
She's lighting up.
Speaking to my heart right now. Okay.
Yes.
So rote teaching is cool. It's a good skill to have to remember your grocery list. However, I'm sorry, am I insulting anybody?
No, you're being real. This is what we need.
So it's a great skill to have. Nobody's hating on that. However, there's nothing meaningful about remembering something for 24 hours because the truth is, I can teach you a spelling list. And I can practice with you tonight.
Yeah, so we have no more 24-hour life stories.
However, I think it's really not a skill that needs to be driven at school because it's not meaningful.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Everybody is like, right now, right? Everybody's screaming on the other side of the camera. But it's not meaningful. Why? If I sit down and have a conversation with you, a meaningful conversation about why Rodin's work is so powerful, you're going to take that home with you.
Right.
However, you're not going to take home when he was born, the city he was born. But if I show you a piece and I tell you, he created this because you will remember that. And isn't that really what's important?
Yeah.
Why he created this piece? Because then maybe you will go home and create your own piece, and then talk about how you were inspired because we had a conversation about this piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Does it matter if you remember a quote from a book and can recite a poem by
But Chini,
no.
our society is obsessed with remembering, hence pictures, hence social media.
Well, associating
We wanna
remembering
capture
with
every
intelligence.
moment.
Yeah.
Right, you're associating it with intelligence, but we're obsessed as a culture. We need to capture. We are around
That's
people
okay.
who are there at dinner, capturing the food that they ate, when they swallowed, when
But you know what? I'm
But
that
I think
person,
that's
and you know
apples
what?
and oranges, honestly.
I think
Yeah,
we
that
can
is
connect
apples-
it.
No, it's because I have that same problem. I do take a lot of pictures because I forget everything. I talk to friends who are like, "Don't you remember we did this exact same thing?" And I was like,
I think
"Nope,
you need
there's
some
no
jinxing
picture.
in your
I have
life."
no memory."
But is taking
Okay.
pictures helping you, or
Yes,
or
it is
creating
because a
fire?
lot of times I go through my pictures and I'm like, "Wow, that's right, I did do that. Oh my god, I do remember that moment." Like I need that. Like
I think you're
that
onto
spark.
something in regards to like
I need context.
changing the narrative about that because you're kind of like, that's it. This is the end of it. You have a terrible memory. Like you're just like not even giving yourself the opportunity
Well-
to say, "This is something that I'm trying to hone in on right now." And then you kind of touched on this
This
as
is
well.
an academic opportunity.
I was telling you this too. Detours point you in the right direction. I think a lot of times we're taught that like failure is like
The
the
dead end.
worst,
Oh.
the dead end. Actually, like Rumi says, the wound
Failure
is
is an
where the
opportunity.
light
That's
enters.
another
This
good
is
lesson.
where you actually probably are really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not in any way like held back by the lack of memory. It's opened the door for you to be more present. It's opened the door for you to be more in the moment. So it's and applying that to children, not looking at things like this child needs to stand up. You know, I have a really amazing teacher that is a dear friend of mine for over 40 years in Union City, and she gets criticized because she allows the kid who wants to just stand up while he's learning to stand up. Like a teacher will go an hour into a discussion about making this kid sit up, and she allows the kid to stand up, and he's like one of her best students now.
Well, sometimes kids need to move. How are we restricting them to a chair?
Right, but it's just something that
Yeah,
simple. It's
right.
not looking at a failure because we deem things wrong and right as like the say all, and having the introspection or like the caring and the nurturing enough to be like, wait a second, like that teacher that told you, I'm not teaching you this the right way. Like maybe this is something that's gonna open your door to be, an inventor.
Right.
Like,
Well, that's why those after-school programs, like what you're doing, is so great because now you're teaching those parents what those behaviors are and that they're not bad, and then you can
Right.
take those behaviors, turn them around, and make it an
And
opportunity.
you're investing in it for free. So now you're holding them accountable. They can't just be like, oh.
This is a question I had because some people believe that when something's free, people don't do it. And clearly you have like a really big, I don't know if you have a waiting list or, people who are really interested. I would like for you to talk a little bit about that because it's important for, people to understand that there's this myth that if something's free, people don't value it.
Oh, yeah, they don't invest because they don't
Right.
feel invested in something.
Right.
So the program that I'm doing now isn't free.
Okay.
The new one I'm starting. The one in the library was free, and we had 35 kids. 35 kids, and they were sad when it was over.
Right.
Also,
But I think what a lot of people don't realize is how much money has to be pushed into programs like this. Because the library did fund a portion of it, but when the wheels start turning and you get excited and you see the effect that it can make. So I kind of feel like with this new program, I wish that I could have this at every cafe, all over town,
Right.
and bring people on.
And you should be able to do
But
that.
this is where sponsorship would have to come into
Right.
play. And this is where the community says, ooh, that's great, but nobody looks at what goes into something like this. So,
And I want to just highlight, library
yes,
are amazing. That is a social,
it's
thing
a cultural hub.
that we're provided, and that alone needs more funding because it's so sad to think that libraries are closing, which is happening. This is a space that provides free resources.
Follow your library.
Follow
on
your
Instagram,
library.
follow your
Support.
library on
I
Facebook.
love libraries.
Go
I
to all
visit
those
libraries.
events.
Where
Shout
I
out to
go.
the-
Excellent
Shout out to the
resources.
library.
Shout
Shout
out
out
to the
to
Westmere
Seacombs
Library
Library.
and the North Bergen Library. Awesome
I
libraries.
worked really close to
But we're coming.
Time.
We've been going on for a bit, and
Yeah.
I really want to close it up. So one of the things that I want to talk about is what are some of your next steps? And if you have the opportunity to speak to your community, what would you like from your community? Apart from resources, I know you want resources, and we're going to help you with that. We're going to talk to people and see how we can help you with going along.
In this day and age, we have the ability, just with a click, to help community leaders bring forth all the resources necessary for everyone to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, this program that I'm starting, yes, I want it to be successful, but really I want everybody who has a true interest in our community to be successful. You have Rich House Club, you work for the community, you're doing your program, NOHU Collective, for the community. Really, I would like for everybody to put everybody on.
Yes.
Share everybody's stuff, not just my stuff, because in sharing your stuff, if you and I collaborate, that's sharing my stuff.
Yeah. Right.
The community has to come together to make West New York better. Really, that's what I want.
Yeah.
You know, if my program is a baby program, it's one little piece of this huge puzzle.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's grandmothers involved, there's grandfathers involved, there's different clubs that are extended. You know, my one friend who's collaborating with me for the program, she's ABA certified. There's a community of children that are on the spectrum that are completely excluded. There's nothing for them, and it infuriates me. They need a place to be. They need their space. Everybody needs their space. We're talking about different learners. Different learners grow and are adults. Where is their community?
Right.
We all need to be together. We all need to bring West New York to a higher standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because our community needs it. Not just our children. Our children are you know, our seeds, right? But our seeds grow.
Yeah.
Do we want our seeds to stay here? We need to invest.
Yeah.
So really, that's why my program works with younger children, because they are the seeds that will grow, and I hope will make roots here.
Be part of.
But you touched on something really
community.
important in terms of the community. We talked about resources a lot, and money is very important to get a lot of these programs going. But a lot of times, some of the most expensive things that we need are other people. Like, we can't afford other people.
Yes.
But if other people help and the community joins in, and your resource and your human resources are just as valuable as monetary resources.
should
A
have
lot of
a
times that's what you need. Maybe someone has a space they can lend out. Like,
Yes.
maybe someone has supplies they can lend. So everybody pitches in a little bit, and like as a village, we make things happen.
We should have like a NOHU collab night or something.
Yeah.
Where
I
you just
would
gave me
love
an
that.
idea, and I'm gonna say it after we do our live stream. But see, just being around you and you guys has inspired me. We're planting seeds where we can create.
You know, I just feel like there's so many people nestled in this community that don't know about each other. I didn't know I was gonna run into you today. You walked in, I was like,
That's so amazing.
I didn't know she was gonna come.
I didn't know she was going to come here.
yesterday I had brunch with Anais Concepcion, who's a
Podcaster.
Yes.
So excited I met a nice what
So, you know,
amazing
these,
woman.
and then I said, reach out to NOHU Collective. These are the types of things that need to happen.
Yep.
So, you know, yes, I want my program to succeed. If anybody wants to sponsor, we have 20 spots. If anybody wants to sponsor one of our children, all of our children, please reach out to me at high52365. Any help is welcome. Anything that you feel that you can volunteer, please reach out and help each other out.
Yeah.
We should
I
talk.
love
We
that.
have
That's
some
such a
ideas to
positive
help you raise
let's
money.
talk about that after.
And so we'll talk about that. But thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you
This
so much.
is
Support your
amazing.
community.
Thank you to Adriana. Thank you for Annie for coming. And we had an awesome time. I think we had a great discussion.
I know, I loved it.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.